Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear. And we've got another innovator interview. And today we're pleased to be joined by Nathan Rothstein, who's the co-founder of Project Repat. And they have a really cool service that allows you to have your old T-shirts made into a beautiful quilt. Welcome to the show, Nathan. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, what was your inspiration to start Project Repat? It's a great story about while you were visiting Africa, and I share it with the folks.
Yeah, so it's actually my business partner spent some time doing nonprofit work in East Africa, and when you're there, you see all the T-shirts that get donated in the U.S. and then wind up overseas, and it hit him one day when he was driving on a rickshaw and he saw a guy fall off and there was a huge traffic jam. And when he drove by, the guy was wearing a T-shirt that said, "I danced my butt off at Josh's bar mitzvah in 1997. And clearly that guy had not gone to Josh's bar mitzvah in 1997. And so just started thinking about the global economy of the used T-shirt. And Ross and I linked up, and I was thinking about how to add value to what people had stored in their closet, and then how to turn that into U.S. jobs. And over the last 30 years, we've lost hundreds of thousands of textile jobs. And so we want to figure out a way to bring those back and upcycle T-shirts.
So that explains Project Repat, repatriation of these jobs. How many people have you got working for you now?
Yeah, so we have 3 factories, one in Massachusetts, one in North Carolina, and one in Austin, Texas that we work with. And there's about 100 people doing the cut and sew every day. So they're contract manufacturers, and so they have their own cut and sew textile business, but they have dedicated people working on the quilts every day.
So now you've made about 400,000 quilts based on the information I read. Why is repatriating T-shirt and sewing or textile jobs to the United States sustainable?
Well, I think it takes about 700 gallons to manufacture a new T-shirt. And so T-shirts are a really intensive product to make. And there's billions of shirts that are printed in the U.S. every year. 98% of them are made overseas, usually in places that don't pay people too much. And so what we've done is that instead of sending those T-shirts back overseas, most of the shirts that you donate to the Goodwill or other places don't end up being resold on the retail floor. They end up being shipped all over the world. And so we felt a more sustainable approach was to keep things in the U.S., which saves on shipping and the environmental cost of that, and keeps T-shirts out of landfills. And that all those things we feel adds value to the world.
Sure, absolutely. Now, how many T-shirts have you recovered since you started business?
Almost 10 million at this point.
So 10 million T-shirts, that's many tons of textiles that you've recovered. Let's talk a little bit more about the T-shirt industry. How's it changed over the last 40 years? When I was growing up, T-shirts were made by somebody usually in your community and distributed locally. Is that not the case anymore?
Yeah, so I think after NAFTA, it became much cheaper to manufacture a T-shirt because people were using cheaper labor in Mexico. And then once international laws, free trade laws, made it easier to continue to find cheaper labor, it just became a race to the bottom. So I think that was a big factor in making T-shirts more accessible because they became cheaper for companies to use and for people to buy. And then I think what's also interesting about the marketplace for our business is that people also used to take sewing classes, shop classes in high school, or people knew how to sew maybe 30, 40 years ago. And so as those classes declined and as that industry declined, less people were sewing, so less people knew how to sew. companies could hire fewer sewers, and then also those jobs were shipped overseas. And so that's created this abundance of extra T-shirts, and it's created a place for us to exist in the marketplace.
Well, I've talked with a number of organizations like Goodwill, who have literally tens of thousands of tons of textiles stored. They don't really know what to do with them. They're looking for recycling options. And the hope is that as we recover from the post-China ban, that some of this material will be more valuable. But what you're offering is something completely different, in the sense that you don't send your T-shirt to Goodwill. You send it to make something that would be a keepsake that you could either keep for yourself or give to a friend. So let's talk about what you do when you order a quilt from you. What are the steps you go through?
Yeah, so I think a lot of our customers have a lot of T-shirts in their closet that they no longer wear, but for some reason they don't want to get rid of. And it's really interesting. It's that T-shirts have become the modern form of scrapbooking, where you get one for every event, where you went to college, like if you participated in a 5K. So because they're cheaper to be made, and it's, you see emails all the time that says, come to this event for this free T-shirt. And
sure.
It's not really free, but people like collecting shirts, and they like the memories around it. And so people go on our website and they figure out what size quilt they want based on how many shirts they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then they order, and we send them an email with prep directions for how to prepare their shirts, so we know exactly what they want. Mm-hmm. And then they ship it to one of our production partners, and then a few weeks later we ship it back. And the quilt has a fleece backing that makes it really comfortable, and also reinforces the T-shirts, right? Yeah, so it's a really sturdy product. I mean, it's not your great grandmother or great aunt's museum-like quilt. It doesn't have 3 layers, and it doesn't have batting, but it's really meant to be thrown in the wash. You use it on the couch, use it on your bed, and it's T-shirts and fleece, like the same fleece that you would get from a sweatshirt pullover. So it's really meant to be used. Well, and looking through the pictures of folks have been sharing their quilts.
It's sports teams. I could imagine somebody who had a lot of concert T-shirts like I do, turning that into a quilt and either keeping it or giving it to a friend as memorabilia. So it's a great product, a great reuse case as well. How do you think about Project Repat's opportunity to address other types of textiles in the future? I mean, textiles account for 5% of the waste on Earth right now.
Yeah, so we can use jerseys and flannel and polos and sweatshirts. And so another interesting customer segment for us, which we had not thought about originally, but this becomes a service that people use when someone passes away, and they do this to memorialize someone. So mm-hmm. You think about the memories that people have with clothes, and that's something that someone can pass down through the family. And so we've seen that this really applies to like large segments of the population, from runners to athletes to kids graduating from schools. And for us, the challenge really is just to find more people to do this. We've tried introducing new products, upcycling different things, and mm-hmm. none of the things have really caught on in the same way as the upcycled, affordable T-shirt blanket. So our goal is just to continue to sell as many of these as possible.
Just out of curiosity, what kinds of other products did you try? And I guess that leads to the question, is America ready for kind of a reuse fashion like this?
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, we were making these upcycled tote bags that were kind of like a grocery bag made out of T-shirt. And I remember going up to the founder of Whole Foods. I was at a group meeting with him, and I showed him the bag, and the first question he asked was, how much does this cost? And we were making in the US, and I just tried to think of the lowest possible number that we could make any money and make it work. And I said $16. And he frowned at me and said, well, I would sell this bag for $1 at Whole Foods. Mm-hmm. So I think, I mean, I'm not saying it was the greatest bag, but it was something that, some people liked and it was useful, but I think price in a lot of ways trumps everything else. And so the way to make things really work and be sustainable is if you can price yourself at a competitive price that people see value in. And the T-shirt blankets work because people feel that they're a fair price. I think when we've tried to introduce other products that people have in their mindset of what it should cost, it doesn't square with what they think. And so I think always the problem with sustainability and upcycling is how to make something that people want at a price point that they feel comfortable with. And then the recycling aspect makes them maybe share it a little bit more.
Sure. And what the guy from Whole Foods was looking at was thinking of it in terms of commodity rather than the kind of personalization that you're offering as well. And that customized experience is what justifies a higher price as well.
Yeah, exactly. And, we're doing a lot of work processing the shirts and the custom stuff. And I think, honestly, that's really the work, especially in the textile industry, is the work that remains in the U.S. is stuff that is more custom, that requires a lot of different coordination and logistics more than just sewing 100,000 T-shirts over and over again, because that work I don't think is coming back.
So how can listeners find and buy the Project Repat quilts?
So on our website, projectrepat.com, and then we have also a lot of examples of quilts at Project Repat USA on Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, Nathan, thank you very much for joining us today on Earth911's podcast. Please keep us up to date on what's going on.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And so, folks, we'll be back with another installment of Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear soon. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and thank you for listening.